The ceramic coffee mug exploded against the kitchen wall. Coffee splashed across the white cabinets as Naomi Carter stumbled backward, gasping for air while both hands clawed desperately at the fingers crushing her throat. "You should have minded your own business," Evelyn Cross hissed, her once gentle voice stripped of every trace of warmth. "Now you know too much." Naomi's heels scraped helplessly across the hardwood floor. Her lungs burned. Her vision blurred. Every instinct screamed at her to fight, but Evelyn's grip only tightened. Across the room, hidden beneath the oversized breakfast island, 4-year-old Mason Carter pressed both tiny hands over his mouth to stop himself from crying out. His small body trembled so violently he thought his mother would hear him. Tears rolled silently down his cheeks as he watched the woman everyone believed was kind try to kill the only parent he had left. Naomi managed to force out one desperate word. "Run." But Mason couldn't move. He was frozen. Completely frozen. The cordless phone sat on the kitchen counter less than 6 feet away. It looked impossibly far. Then, just as Naomi's knees threatened to give way beneath her, Evelyn suddenly looked toward the front window. A car door slammed somewhere outside. For the briefest second, her attention shifted. It was enough. Naomi drove her knee upward with every ounce of strength she had left. Evelyn cried out in pain as her grip loosened. Naomi collapsed onto the floor, coughing violently while dragging herself toward the corner where she knew Mason was hiding. The front door burst open. "Naomi!" The desperate voice echoed through the house. Everything stopped. 3 months earlier. Until a few months ago, Gabriel Sterling believed he understood loneliness. At 45, he had built Sterling Freight Technologies from a single rented office into one of the fastest-growing logistics companies in the Southeast. His calendar stayed full, his phone never stopped ringing, and people constantly congratulated him on his success. None of it mattered when he walked through the front door every evening. The sprawling estate outside Asheville felt less like a home and more like a museum dedicated to memories that refused to fade. His father had died after a long illness. His mother had followed 3 years later. The laughter that once echoed through the hallways disappeared with her. For a while, Gabriel convinced himself work was enough. If he worked 16-hour days, there would be less time to think. If he closed another deal, maybe the silence wouldn't seem so loud. If he stayed busy, grief couldn't catch him. He was wrong. The silence always waited. Eventually, his attorney suggested something practical. "You don't need another employee," his attorney had said. "You need someone to make that place feel lived in again." Gabriel reluctantly agreed. That decision led Naomi Carter to his front door. She wasn't the first applicant. She wasn't the youngest. She certainly wasn't the most talkative. But she answered every question with quiet confidence. "I don't just clean houses," she had told him during the interview. "I take care of them." Gabriel remembered raising an eyebrow. "There's a difference?" "There is." "What is it?" "A clean house shines," Naomi replied softly. "A cared-for house breathes." For reasons he couldn't explain, those words stayed with him. She got the job. Along with her came the only person who smiled more than anyone Gabriel had met in years. 4-year-old Mason. The little boy barely spoke during their first meeting. Instead, he wandered into the garden, crouched beside a butterfly, and watched it for nearly 10 minutes without saying a single word. "He's shy," Naomi apologized. Gabriel smiled. "So was I." Life slowly changed. Not dramatically. Quietly. Fresh flowers appeared on the dining table every Monday. The fireplace stayed clean. The kitchen smelled like homemade bread instead of takeout containers. Music occasionally drifted through the halls while Naomi worked. Mason's tiny toy truck somehow ended up parked neatly beside Gabriel's expensive dress shoes every evening. It made Gabriel laugh every single time. The estate no longer felt abandoned. It felt alive. One rainy Saturday afternoon, Gabriel found Mason sitting on the library floor drawing with colored pencils. "What are you making?" Gabriel asked. Mason held up the paper proudly. A crooked house. A bright blue sky. 3 smiling stick figures. Gabriel pointed toward one. That's your mommy. Mason nodded. And that's you. Another nod. Gabriel looked at the third figure. Who's this? Mason grinned. You. Gabriel felt something tighten in his chest. No business award had ever meant as much as a child's simple drawing. For the first time in years, he didn't eat dinner alone. Everything seemed to be moving toward something brighter. Then Evelyn Cross walked into his life. They met during a regional business leadership conference. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. At least, that's what Gabriel believed. While other guests competed for attention, Evelyn laughed easily, listened carefully, and never once asked about his company until hours into their conversation. I've heard enough about businesses, she joked over dinner. Tell me something people don't know about you. Gabriel chuckled. That's dangerous. Why? Because there isn't much left to tell. I don't believe that. He found himself smiling more than he had in years. Over the following months, they talked almost every evening. She remembered small details. His favorite coffee. His mother's birthday. The old jazz records he still played on Sunday mornings. She somehow made grief feel lighter. 6 months later, Gabriel proposed. Naomi genuinely wanted to be happy for him. She really did. The house had been carrying sadness for far too long. Maybe this was exactly what everyone needed. When Evelyn officially moved into the estate, she hugged Naomi warmly. I've heard wonderful things about you. Thank you. And you must be Mason. She crouched to the little boy's level with a bright smile. I've been looking forward to meeting you. Mason stepped behind Naomi's legs. He didn't say a word. Evelyn laughed politely. I guess I'll have to earn your trust. Naomi smiled awkwardly. He's just shy. But later that evening, while putting Mason to bed, she gently asked, Why didn't you want to say hello? The little boy stared at the ceiling for several seconds. Then he whispered so quietly Naomi almost missed it. She smiles different. Naomi frowned. What do you mean? When Mr. Gabe looks. He smiled. When he doesn't. The smile disappeared from Mason's face. He slowly shook his head. Naomi kissed his forehead. You've got a wonderful imagination. I know. He closed his eyes. But I'm not pretending. Naomi tried to dismiss it as a child's instinctive caution around strangers. Children sometimes took time to warm up. There was nothing unusual about that. That's what she kept telling herself. For the next few weeks, everything appeared normal. Almost. Every morning, Gabriel kissed Evelyn goodbye before leaving for work. Every morning, she stood in the driveway waving until his car disappeared around the bend. Then something happened that Naomi couldn't quite explain. The warmth vanished. The smile faded. Her shoulders relaxed. Her expression hardened. It wasn't gradual. It happened in seconds. Like watching an actress step off a stage after the audience had gone home. The first time Naomi noticed it, she thought she had imagined it. The second time, she paid closer attention. By the 5th morning, she was certain. The woman Gabriel fell in love with only seemed to exist when Gabriel was watching. The change became impossible to ignore once Naomi stopped questioning whether she was imagining it. Every morning followed the same pattern. Gabriel would leave with a smile. Evelyn would stand on the front porch, waving until his SUV disappeared beyond the iron gates. The second it was out of sight, she would glance at her watch. The smile would vanish. Her posture stiffened. She never sighed with relief or stretched like someone settling into the day. It was as though an entirely different person had taken control. Naomi never mentioned it. Not yet. People saw what they expected to see. And Gabriel expected to see the woman who had brought happiness back into his life. One Tuesday morning, Naomi was dusting the upstairs hallway when she noticed Evelyn walking quickly across the back lawn with her phone pressed to her ear. Instead of staying on the patio where reception was stronger, she continued toward the tree line bordering the property. She looked over her shoulder twice before disappearing behind the old oak trees. Naomi frowned. That's odd. She finished cleaning the hallway and happened to glance outside 20 minutes later. Evelyn was still there. Talking. Pacing. gesturing angrily. The moment she returned to the house, she was smiling again. "Naomi," she called cheerfully, "would you mind making lemon tea this afternoon? My throat feels scratchy." "Of course." Her tone was warm, gentle, exactly like it had been before she'd gone outside. Naomi couldn't explain why that unsettled her more than the phone call itself. Over the next several weeks, little things began piling up. None of them proved anything. Together, they refused to leave her mind. Different luxury SUVs appeared near the estate every few days. They never drove through the front gate. Instead, they waited on the quiet country road. Evelyn would leave the house, meet someone inside one of the vehicles for 10 or 15 minutes, then return carrying nothing. No shopping bags. No paperwork. Nothing. When Gabriel asked how her afternoon had been, she always smiled. "Oh, I spent most of it reading." Naomi said nothing. One afternoon she found a stack of financial magazines spread across the dining room table. Highlighted pages marked articles about inheritances, trust funds, joint ownership, estate transfers. She assumed Gabriel had left them there until Evelyn casually asked him over dinner, "Have you ever thought about simplifying your finances?" Gabriel laughed. "I deal with enough paperwork at the office." "I know." She reached across the table and squeezed his hand. "I just don't want you stressing over those things if we're building a future together." He smiled. "Always looking out for me. Always." Naomi lowered her eyes to her plate. The conversation sounded perfectly reasonable. So why did it leave such a heavy feeling in her chest? A week later, Gabriel called Naomi into his office. "I'll be meeting with my attorney tomorrow." She nodded. "Anything you need prepared?" "No." He smiled. "Evelyn thinks it's time to update some legal documents." "Oh. I should have done it years ago." Naomi forced a smile. "That makes sense." "It does." Yet something about his answer echoed in her mind long after she'd left the room. That evening, while washing dishes, she noticed Mason sitting at the kitchen table with crayons scattered around him. "What are you drawing?" "Our house." She smiled. "Can I see?" He turned the paper around. Gabriel stood beside Naomi. Mason stood between them. Evelyn stood several feet away. Everyone had smiling faces. Except Evelyn. Her mouth curved upward. Her eyes were colored completely black. Naomi blinked. "Honey, why did you draw her eyes like that?" Mason didn't even look up. "Because that's how they look." "When?" "When nobody's looking." Naomi's smile disappeared. "Mason." He finally looked at her. "I'm not being mean, Mommy." "I know. I don't like when she watches Mr. Gabe." "What do you mean?" "She doesn't look at him." He tapped the drawing. "She looks at his house." Naomi felt goosebumps race across her arms. Children imagine strange things every day. They mix dreams with reality. That's all this was. It had to be. She folded the drawing instead of throwing it away. She tucked it inside the kitchen drawer. She wasn't sure why. Days turned into weeks. Then one rainy afternoon, Naomi accidentally overheard something she was never supposed to hear. She had been carrying fresh towels toward the guest bedrooms when Evelyn's voice drifted through the open study window below. She wasn't shouting. She wasn't whispering either. Just speaking with unusual urgency. Naomi froze. "He signed the preliminary documents." A man's voice crackled faintly through the speakerphone. She couldn't make out the reply. Evelyn answered almost immediately. "No, not yet." "I said not yet." Another pause. "I know the timeline." "Timeline?" Naomi slowly stepped closer. "Everything has to happen after the final transfer." Her heartbeat quickened. The man spoke again. This time his voice sounded irritated. Evelyn lowered hers. "Relax." She glanced toward the house. "He trusts me completely." Silence. Then 5 words that made Naomi's blood run cold. "It won't look suspicious." Naomi's grip loosened. The towels slipped from her hands and landed softly on the hallway floor. She stopped breathing. Had she misunderstood? She wanted to believe she had. She needed to believe she had. But something deep inside her whispered otherwise. She hurried away before she heard anything else. That night she barely slept. Every possible explanation ran through her mind. Maybe they were discussing business. Maybe it had nothing to do with Gabriel. Maybe. None of the maybes felt convincing. The following morning she bought a small spiral notebook during a grocery run. She told herself it was ridiculous, paranoid, even embarrassing. She began writing. Monday, 10:14 a.m. Black SUV. License plate partially covered in mud. Meeting lasted 12 minutes. Phone call near the woods. Mentioned paperwork. Friday. Attorney appointment. Financial documents. Nothing dramatic. Just observations. Facts. If she was wrong, nobody would ever know the notebook existed. If she was right, she prayed she wasn't. Meanwhile, Gabriel seemed happier than ever. One evening he walked into the kitchen carrying a bottle of sparkling cider. "I've got news." Naomi smiled. "What happened?" "Evelyn convinced me to take a vacation." "You?" "I know." He laughed. "I can hardly believe it myself." "When?" "After the merger closes next month." "That'll be nice." "It will." He looked toward the living room where Evelyn was arranging flowers. "I think my mother would have liked her." Naomi's heart sank. She wanted to smile. Instead she simply nodded. "I hope so." Gabriel noticed her expression. "You don't sound convinced." "It's nothing." "No." He leaned against the counter. "What is it?" Naomi hesitated. This was the moment. Say something. Or stay silent forever. She swallowed. "I've noticed a few things." "What kind of things?" "Evelyn meets people outside the property." Gabriel frowned. "So?" "She makes phone calls she seems to hide." His smile faded. "Naomi, I'm probably wrong. What are you trying to say?" She took a slow breath. "I just think you should be careful." Silence filled the kitchen. Finally Gabriel spoke. "I appreciate that you care about me." "I do. I really do. But Evelyn has done nothing to deserve suspicion." Naomi lowered her eyes. "I know how this sounds. You've been under a lot of stress." "So have you." "I trust her." "I understand." "No." His tone softened. "I don't think you do." He sighed. "After everything she's done for me, after helping me move on." He shook his head gently. "I won't let rumors damage what we've built." "They aren't rumors." "What are they then?" Naomi couldn't answer. Because she had no proof. Only instinct. Gabriel offered a sympathetic smile. "Please." He placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Let's not do this again." Naomi nodded slowly. "I'm sorry." "You don't need to apologize." "I do." "No." He smiled kindly. "Just promise me you'll give her a chance." Naomi forced herself to smile back. "I will." But as she walked upstairs later that evening, she slipped the notebook deeper into her bedroom drawer. She had the uneasy feeling that time was running out. And somewhere else in the house, unseen by everyone, Evelyn stood quietly outside the partially open study door. She hadn't heard the entire conversation. Only the last few sentences. It was enough. A slow smile spread across her face. Not the warm smile Gabriel loved. The other one. The one that never reached her eyes. She whispered to herself so softly that no one could possibly hear. "So, you're paying attention after all." The next morning, Naomi woke up with a feeling she couldn't shake. Something had changed. She didn't know how she knew. There was no argument. No confrontation. No obvious threat. But the house felt different. Quieter. Heavier. Like a storm gathering somewhere beyond the horizon. As she walked downstairs, she noticed Evelyn already sitting at the kitchen island drinking coffee. That was unusual. Evelyn rarely woke up before Gabriel. She looked perfectly calm. Almost peaceful. "Good morning, Naomi," Evelyn said. Naomi stopped for half a second. "Good morning." Evelyn smiled. "I hope you slept well." "I did." "Good." The pause. Then Evelyn tilted her head slightly. "You know, I was thinking about something." Naomi continued preparing breakfast. "What about?" "You've been with Gabriel for a long time. Almost a year. That's a long time to become close to someone. Naomi said nothing. Evelyn took another sip of coffee. I imagine you know a lot about him. I work for him. That's not what I mean. Her voice remained soft. You know his habits, his schedule, his weaknesses. Naomi slowly turned around. What are you trying to say? Evelyn smiled. Nothing. The answer came too quickly. Just making conversation. But Naomi knew. That wasn't conversation. It was a warning. That afternoon, Gabriel left early for an important business meeting connected to the biggest merger of his career. Before leaving, he hugged Evelyn at the front door. I'll probably be late. No problem. She smiled. Focus on work. Gabriel looked toward Naomi. Take care of everyone while I'm gone. Naomi smiled faintly. I always do. Gabriel laughed. I know. He kissed Evelyn goodbye. Then he walked toward his car. Naomi watched through the window. Evelyn watched too. But the moment Gabriel drove away, the warmth disappeared. Except this time, Naomi saw something else. Evelyn wasn't just changing. She was preparing. She walked straight into the kitchen. Straight toward her phone. Naomi stayed upstairs, quietly listening. She hated that she was doing it. She hated that she was suspicious. But she hated the thought of ignoring the warning signs even more. Evelyn's voice came from below. He's gone. The pause. No, everything is still on schedule. Naomi froze. She moved closer to the staircase. Yes, the merger meeting is today. Another pause. No, I told you. He won't suspect anything. Naomi's breathing became shallow. Evelyn continued. The paperwork will be finished soon. Silence. Then her next words changed everything. After that, Gabriel becomes a problem we no longer need to deal with. Naomi covered her mouth. Her heart pounded. She needed proof. She needed someone else to hear this. Then Evelyn said something even worse. It will look like exactly what everyone expects. The pause. A stressed, exhausted man who pushed himself too hard. Naomi felt sick. She understood. This wasn't about money anymore. This was about Gabriel's life. She quietly stepped backward. But her foot touched a loose floorboard. A small creak echoed through the hallway. The conversation stopped. Complete silence. Naomi didn't move. For several seconds, neither did Evelyn. Then came the sound of footsteps. Slow. Approaching. Naomi turned and hurried toward the back hallway. She reached the laundry room. Closed the door. Held her breath. The footsteps passed. Then stopped. Right outside. Naomi covered her mouth. A shadow appeared beneath the door. Evelyn stood there. Waiting. After several seconds, she finally walked away. But Naomi knew. She knew Evelyn suspected something. She grabbed her phone. She needed to call Gabriel. The screen lit up. No signal. The storm outside had knocked out the service. Naomi's hands trembled. She looked toward the living room. Mason was playing quietly with his toys. She ran to him. Mason, sweetheart, we need to leave. He looked up. Why? Because we're going somewhere. Where? She forced a smile. Just trust Mommy. But before she could reach the door, the lock turned. Naomi froze. Evelyn stood there. The gentle expression was gone. The mask had finally fallen. Mason, Naomi whispered. The little boy immediately understood. He grabbed his toy truck and ran behind the kitchen island. Evelyn watched him disappear. Then she looked back at Naomi. You really should have stayed quiet. Naomi backed away. Gabriel will know. Evelyn laughed softly. No, he won't. He will. Naomi. Evelyn stepped closer. You still don't understand. Her voice became colder. People believe what they want to believe. Naomi shook her head. You planned everything. Evelyn smiled. I planned my future. You planned his death. For the first time, Evelyn's expression changed. A flash of anger. Then it disappeared. Careful. Naomi looked toward the kitchen counter. The phone was there. Too far away. Evelyn noticed. Her eyes followed Naomi's. Then she smiled. You really are observant. The next few seconds happened too quickly. Naomi turned. Evelyn grabbed her arm. The struggle sent a chair crashing across the floor. Mason! Naomi shouted. No! Evelyn pulled her back. You should have kept cleaning. Naomi fought harder than Evelyn expected. Not because she was stronger. Because she had someone to protect. Every thought in her mind was Mason. Every movement. Every breath. She couldn't let him see her give up. Under the kitchen island, Mason watched through terrified eyes. He remembered something. A few months earlier, Gabriel had shown him the phone. If you ever need me, Gabriel had said, laughing, press this button. Mason had asked why. Gabriel smiled. Because sometimes people need help. The little boy crawled slowly toward the phone. Every movement felt impossible. He reached up. His fingers barely touched it. Twice. On the third try, it fell toward him. The screen lit up. Gabriel's picture appeared. Mason pressed it. The phone rang. Hundreds of miles away, inside a conference room filled with executives and lawyers, Gabriel Sterling saw the call. He almost ignored it. Almost. Then he saw the name. Mason. Something felt wrong. He answered immediately. Hey buddy. At first, there was only breathing. Then a tiny voice. Mr. Gabe. Gabriel stood up. Mason? Come home. The sound of fear in that little voice changed everything. Mason, where's your mommy? The pause. She's hurt. Gabriel's face went pale. What? Mr. Gabe. The boy started crying. Please come home. The conference room went silent. Gabriel was already moving. Call emergency services. He ordered someone nearby. What happened? I don't know. He grabbed his keys. But something is wrong. The drive back felt endless. Every red light. Every slow vehicle. Every second felt like an hour. He kept calling Naomi. No answer. No answer. Finally, the estate appeared in the distance. His heart dropped. The front door was open. Gabriel slammed the car into park and ran inside. Naomi! He heard movement. A crash. Then silence. He rushed toward the kitchen. And stopped. The woman he trusted stood frozen near the doorway. Naomi was on the floor. Bruised. Struggling to breathe. And beneath the kitchen table, little Mason cried into his hands. Gabriel moved faster than he ever had. He pulled Naomi away from Evelyn. Stay away from them. For the first time, Evelyn looked afraid. Not because she was caught. Because she knew the person she manipulated the most finally saw the truth. Gabriel. He looked at her. And the pain in his eyes was worse than anger. Don't. One word. But it destroyed everything. The woman he thought loved him was gone. Only the truth remained. Police arrived minutes later. The investigation uncovered everything. The mysterious visitors. The fake documents. The financial scheme. Evelyn had been targeting wealthy men for years, creating relationships, gaining trust, and positioning herself to control their assets. Gabriel wasn't her first plan. Just her most valuable one. Weeks later, the house was different. Not because of the expensive security system. Not because of the cameras around the property. Because people finally felt safe inside it again. Gabriel sat with Naomi and Mason in the garden one evening. I owe you both more than I can explain. Naomi looked down. I should have spoken sooner. No. Gabriel shook his head. You tried. I didn't have proof. You had something better. He looked at her. You paid attention. Mason smiled while playing nearby. Gabriel watched him for a moment. That little boy saved all of us. Naomi smiled. Yes, he did. From that day forward, Gabriel never ignored quiet warnings again. He learned that danger doesn't always arrive looking dangerous. Sometimes it arrives with a smile. Sometimes it says all the right things. Sometimes everyone believes the person who looks the most trustworthy. Sometimes the people others overlook are the ones who see the truth first. If this story touched you, take a moment to like the video, subscribe for more emotional stories like this, and share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever had a moment where your instincts warned you about something before you had proof? because sometimes the quietest voice in the room is the one telling the truth.